Jason Solo or Kylo Ren, demigod Luke or old man kills you in your sleep Luke. There are tons of Star Wars stories, and someone needs to decide what's real or fanfiction. At least that's how it all started. But who decides what's canon or not? What goes and what doesn't? What version can we consider Star Wars history, and is Star Academy just publishing lore videos on fanfic characters? These and more answers coming in this huge video I'm sharing today. You voted, I deliver. I love you all, and don't forget to send some love back my way by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel, activating notifications or the bell icon, and, of course, leave me some comments down below so we can chat as we always do. I love to talk Star Wars with my community. So grab a seat, get your Chewbacca mug, and let's get started on today's video. Hello guys, this video came out a little bigger than expected, but this is a really in-depth approach on a complex topic, so bear with me. Also, make sure to watch the video to the end so we can all talk about it down in the comments and my channel's engagement can go up as it benefits me a ton. Having said that, let's talk about the topic at hand and the topic you guys wanted to talk about, which is Star Wars canon and how stories are deemed real or simply fanfic. Well, most fictional universes never hit a size in which canon starts becoming an issue, but we all know Star Wars is one of the most successful IPs in the world and it's an absolute phenomenon with tons of weight and therefore a lot of stories to filter. Not only that, fans are extremely invested in the brand, and when that happens, you seriously need to start considering what's canon or not. You see, filtering canon and non-canon stuff is what happens in universes in which fans love the story so much they want to make sure they all blend in and complement one another. They also want to ensure there aren't any plot holes or contradictions, and that would be immersion breaking, and Star Wars fans want to be truly immersed. Having said that, you can kinda say Star Wars canon is that one true story sitting at a pedestal for us to enjoy. It's safeguarded and certified by authorities. That's what it means to have it being gospel or canon. It's official, it's certified, it is proven to match the rest of the stories, and so on. But this video is all about going in depth to the core of the issue, and this brings us to the origin of the term canon and why people started using it. Canon means a settled matter that respects rules and norms. In ancient societies and on religious texts, scholars and authorities have been the ones to decide what knowledge is canon or not, or what documents are canon or not. Now, we're not talking about curating scientific discoveries over here or choosing manuscripts for the Bible, but about entertainment and cultural franchises and what of the stories to include in the overarching story of the fictional universe. The pursuit for Star Wars canon is a pursuit for a heresy free galaxy far, far away because we Star Wars fans are among the most passionate fans of any IP, and we take pride in wanting consistency and a lore that fits and complements every single detail on our favorite universe. Not only that, we as true fans get offended and triggered when someone mistakes a fanfiction story for something to take seriously. Then, of course, we consider even a greater offense when bogus, stupid stuff gets into canon, like Luke considering to kill his nephew in his sleep. Regardless, stories build upon stories, and that's how you went from having one Star Wars book to a whole Star Wars library. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. I may lose a couple of subs for saying this, but I kinda hate Disney's sequel trilogy, and I see the power of canon when Star Wars canon Bible thumpers harass me saying Rey Skywalker is canon and whatnot. So, you can clearly see there's a devout following of canon material, which is to be expected. However, I personally consider Jason Solo, Kate Skywalker, and the likes canon, discarding the new trilogy from my headcanon, and is that wrong? Well, According to the IP owners, what I consider canon is in fact Legends, and Disney's trilogy is canon. But is that so simple? Do the IP owners really have the power to grab Darth Caedus and place a giant sticker saying fake news on his face? This is where it gets complex. When I say that Luke Skywalker in Legends fits the Luke personality way better than old milk drinking Luke from Disney, Disney Wars fans just shut me down stating Luke from Legends isn't canon, old Luke is. Canon is constantly being used to shut down conversation, and while that was comprehensible when Lucas was in charge and the arguments were only between fanfic and official sources, now that it is new canon versus old canon, it sounds kind of immoral and blatantly wrong. This becomes even worse by the fact that the majority of Star Wars fans love Legends and still to this day consider it canon. So you have a whole side of the community being ostracized by the other side for considering canon what was once canon and was just thrown to the can because Disney wanted to start fresh, which they are now seeing was a mistake as they adopt more and more elements from past stories, and I think we'll be seeing a lot of old characters coming back. So, when we talk about canon, we have to understand that canon should make us love the story and pick the right path for fans to follow. The path that has the values canon defends, like story stability, solid grounds for its core arguments, the least amount of plot holes, and etc. What canon shouldn't be is a form of zealotry to ostracize a good portion of the community or ridicule their own beliefs, shutting down any criticism and solid arguments. So, who determines what canon encompasses and what it doesn't? A simple answer would be the IP owners. However, now that we analyze the whole topic carefully, we discover that canon should follow the best path, as it would be twisted for canon to simply represent the story that commercially helps the IP owners. Canon should always represent the most solid, stable, and plot hole free story. There are thousands of cases in which IP owners adopted fan based stories that covered their plot holes or included them into official canon because of it, and this kind of validates my earlier point. But this isn't all, there are a few more things to consider. Let's talk about enjoyment to start. What are your best Star Wars memories? What are your best Star Wars moments? What part of the story do you like the most? You'll see that no matter how you answer this, it is mostly connected to enjoyment. Perhaps your favorite Sith is Darth Malgus because you loved seeing how badass he was in Star Wars The Old Republic. Perhaps you just love Revan as you loved the old KOTOR games. Or perhaps you simply have a thing for Darth Maul and his insane dueling skills with the novel double-bladed lightsaber that made movie theaters go wow. As I stated before, I kinda have the Legends version of events in my head canon, choosing to largely ignore Disney's movies version of events. I know that Legends isn't canon, but I prefer to ignore that fact simply because I believe Disney wanted to complete the story but failed. I don't think the movies stand up against criticism the way the Legends version of events stands. The personality of Luke Skywalker being only one of many examples, make it so that the sequel trilogy is the least stable of both stories. Now, I'm not saying the Legends version is perfect, God knows it isn't, but I simply think it is the most stable and criticism resistant story, and the one that delivers better immersion and value to its fans. Enjoyment, the thing art is meant to provide. I don't hate Disney because it's Disney, and neither do most of you. I remember back when Lucasfilm was sold to Disney and the movies were announced that we were mostly very excited. We were getting more Star Wars movies. Some of them worried that Jar Jar Binks characters would appear left and right since it was Disney, but we were mostly all excited. We were also hoping Disney would respect our canon, and why shouldn't they respect our canon? It would bring them so much to work with, so many great stories to tell, from Admiral Thrawn to Revan, Darth Bane, Xena, Talon and Crate, and so on. So many great stories coming to the big screens, or so we were hoping. Disney threw everything to the garbage and united all previous content, except the movies, into one big lump they called Legends. Not only that, Caitlin Kennedy also complained on live TV that she had close to no source material to work with, which really made us fans really upset. Lucas changed canon sometimes, like with the midichlorians and whatnot, but they always went to the trouble to keep canon stable, adapting and even retconning when needed, making sure we fans could do a little detective work and study Star Wars lore as we always love to do. The story is widely different now. It used to be that canon was made up of how the story had or didn't have merit, or originality, or influence, or ingenuity. That's why Darth Bane and Darth Xana's story was canon, and why the holiday special wasn't considered to be canon by most, even though it was as canon. What is George Lucas' take on who should determine what's canon or not? In an interview, Lucas said, there's my world that I made up, there's the licensing world, that's the books, the comics, all that kind of stuff, the games, which is their world, and then there's the fans' world, which is also very rich in imagination, but they don't always mesh. All I'm in charge is of my world. I can't be in charge of those other people's worlds because I can't keep up with it. So, Lucas basically says the Star Wars universe is so big that canon can differ from person to person and from media to media. It depends on the path that provides more stability, immersion, less plot holes, and which grants people the most enjoyment. I am fine with having a different story in my head when compared to a fan of Disney's sequel trilogy. He or she may find enjoyment by following the story Disney deemed as canon, but I find more enjoyment in the story Lucas deemed as canon, and it is fine. You don't see me nagging on pro Disney forums like many Lucas canon Bible thumpers because I understand this. Disney decided that their take is canon not because of stability, plot holes, creativity, or even enjoyment. They decided their take is canon because of commercial viability and financial and or political interests. And that is fine to me. I just choose to not include that decision on my, you can call it, headcanon. And that's why you don't see a video on Rey or Kylo Ren on my channel, but see a video on Darth Caedus, Darth Talon, and others. By definition, canon is fluid, and that's why what was once canon isn't anymore. So you shouldn't take canon or non-canon tags as, well, canon, because they can change with time, other stories, or even commercial interests. What you can do is take every story as if it were told to you by someone else and decide on how credible and enjoyable you find it, either focusing on enjoyment or on credibility depending on what kind of fan you are. Sure, we have to establish some objective standards and guarantee story integrity. There's only one single issue with having headcanon as your canon, and that is when arguing or talking to other fans. This is why it's also important that you are ready to make a case for your interpretation of the story. I, for one, am always ready to back up my preference for the Legends sequel stories over Disney's sequel trilogy with arguments on why it makes so much more sense for stuff to happen one way over the other. But what I am always willing to do is compromise or accept other points of view. I'm a Star Wars fan, I know all of the possible stories, canon and not canon, and I decide what stories count for me. What I don't do is I decide what counts or not for other people. This is why I also don't pay much attention to comments that try to censor my own point of view, like comments on my Dark Talon video saying she doesn't exist, or comments on my Jason Solo material claiming he is just poor fanfiction and Kylo Ren is the real Chad. Star Wars is a rich universe full to the brim with wondrous stories, but what really matters is how it touches you, your friends, me, and the random fan over on the other side of the world. Good canon is canon we can stand behind. We shouldn't stand behind the story just because the IP owner tells us to. Of course, we cannot consider stories written by unlicensed sources, such as fanfiction, as canon, but we can consider past canon stories canon, or stories written by official or licensed sources as canon. This is why I don't have any problem with those who consider Star Wars The Old Republic canon. I myself consider a great part of it canon as well. It never was canon, but it was made by official licensed sources, so it should be analyzed and tested and adopted by your version of canon if you find either enjoyment or continuity in it, again, depending on what kind of fan you are. Is it relevant? Is it enduring? Does it respect continuity? Is it enjoyable? Great! Analyze it, adopt it if you want, discard it if you don't. In this sense, canon or canonical are just terms to describe the continuity of events on the story, and that's why we even have different kinds of canon before. When Disney bought Star Wars, there was such an overwhelming wealth of canon material that it really intimidated the new owners. Rather than checking all of the material out and getting to know what they bought in depth, they just threw it all in the trash for one simple reason: money. Disney wants to rack up those profits, so they wanted to produce material ASAP. They didn't care to learn Star Wars essence, but to milk the most profitable franchise space ever saw. Of course, they are now understanding that Star Wars is much more than its name, and truth be told, I think they are now making an effort to really understand the Star Wars universe, but the damage had been done. Again, this is my opinion. If you love the sequel trilogy, you're in your right, and I respect you and accept your version of canon as it is equally valid. Disney thought respecting previous canon was too much of an hassle, so they canned what was canon, but this brings another question. Should the IP owner just decide what's canon and force everyone to accept it?
A good question for another time.
If you've been listening to what I've been saying, then you know I don't think so. The IP owner has a lot of power, but not absolute power, and we must understand the full scope of decisions that lead the IP to deem one story canon and the other non canon. To me, it is easier to accept that we now have two timelines, but again, that's just my take on it, and I am ready to defend it with solid arguments when talking to another fan who is, again, free to have a different opinion. So now you have Disney canon and Legends canon to consider if you're a Star Wars fan, and I can say I'm a scholar in both myself as I did my fair share of digging. However, I think canon now forks, like a cryptocurrency, into two different paths you are free to pursue depending on your preference. I think it is only a matter of time until Disney recognizes this undeniable fact and decides to legitimize Legends a bit more than the little to no weight it gives it right now. After all, Disney cares about its target market, and its target market cares about Legends. As you can see, when you're asking who decides what's canon or not in the Star Wars universe, the answer isn't plain and simply those who own the IP. Sure, they own the copyrights, but is that what Star Wars is about? Or is it about the stories you choose to believe in? Don't fans have a say in this? Don't fans control their own enjoyment or respect continuity? Shouldn't fans decide on discarding or keeping the canon hierarchy? Should Caitlin's story group decide what you choose to keep from the age of Lucas? Nowadays, there's just too much money involved for content creators to take these kind of decisions with the story in mind. They are often conditioned by factors such as pleasing shareholders or trying new marketing stunts. The shift should gradually be decentralized to the fans, much like other industries are experiencing similar kind of decentralization. So, having said that, there is a huge, and I mean huge problem with the canon label as of now. New Star Wars fans are not picking up Legends books, which are amazing, since they are thinking these stories don't count for squat, never happened, and aren't truly Star Wars. They are missing out on everything we love about Star Wars, and they are doing a huge disservice to themselves. For a huge majority of my channel subscribers, some sort of Legends materials even has their favorite story of all time in it, and that is saying a lot as my followers are huge Star Wars fans just like you. Again, let's take a look at something Lucas said about canon on the now Legends books and works of art. Gospel, or canon as we refer to it, includes the screenplays, the films, the radio dramas, and the novelizations. These works spin out of my original stories, the rest are written by other writers. However, between us, we've read everything, and much of it is taken into account in the overall continuity. The entire catalogue of published works comprises a vast history, with many offshoots, variations, and tangents, like any other well developed mythology. We should look at Star Wars the same way we look at any great work of literature, because it is that and much more. The saga should be viewed as a universe of great works blending in with each other, enriching a common story and expanding a huge mythology. And no matter how immersed you are in them, they are stories and therefore are pieces of entertainment art which are enjoyed differently according to each beholder. King Arthur was sometimes a Viking, sometimes a late medieval knight, and this story is still enjoyed to this day. It's okay to have different timelines in canon, it's okay to have different versions in canon. Canon is just a tool to describe what comes from official sources or not, so we can know what content is endorsed by the overall universe, and if it was considered canon once, you just cannot take that privilege away. Santa Claus started wearing red because of the Coca Cola ad, but you can't just say that Red Claus is poor fanfiction and force everyone to go back to Green Santa Claus. You must accommodate for both and offer arguments to back up your preference if you're arguing with a zealot on the other side. So, to wrap it up, who decides what is canon or not? The answer is a mix of you, the IP, and the fans. You, because you decide what story to believe in, to choose which path to take, and where your imagination and immersion point out value is. The IP, because it decides over the years what's accepted as official sources, with the addendum that future IP owners can take the canon status away from something just because, and the fans, as you collectively build the universe around you. I hope that you found value in this video and I made it clear enough for you to understand. I never made such a long video, so I really want to thank the hardcore fans who stayed until the end and watched it all, and I want to invite those who did to talk about this with me down in the comment section below. I always answer every comment I get and I love to chat up some concepts with you. Finally, I'm inviting you not only to like and subscribe, but to also check out the video's description, as we have a brand new Discord server I created for the community, and all my most loyal subscribers are there, and I hold their opinions close to heart as they are my most loyal pillars. So join my Discord and get involved. That's all for now, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed and may the force be with you.